So it does look as if, although J.K. Rowling hasn't been entirely eradicated, she has been sort of somewhat cleansed of this. Should she be invited in person, or because of her views on trans and trans rights and transgender issues, and that being at variance to many of the stars who were in the films that she spawned, maybe it was right to keep her away.
J.K. Rowling very clearly hates men. I can't even be bothered trying to ease you into this. If you pay any attention at all, you'll notice that this particular opinionated billionaire is really quite obsessed with the idea of the eternal victimhood of women at the eternally guilty hand of the entire male population. She believes, like many people believe, that she is oppressed by the very men who have provided her with the life she so very much enjoys. And she was quite obviously taught to believe this during her state-sponsored racket of an education. If you ask me, and for the purposes of this video format you are asking me, J.K. Rowling manifests her learned man-hatred in the form of penis hatred. She hates any human being who has ever possessed a penis. And you don't care about this hatred whatsoever. You don't care about the widespread, irrational fear and hatred of masculinity in any of its forms. You only care, or at least you only act like you care, about the outside possibility that anyone might question the motives of a person who denounces their masculinity, i.e. a trans woman. To reiterate, J.K. Rowling denounces biological masculinity in no uncertain terms. She fucking hates it. Women are eternal victims of men's masculinity, according to her opinions, as can be unambiguously discovered in her tweets, and I believe her tweets are precisely what we're examining here. So, yeah, just to make this as clear as I can, I am not interested in defending J.K. Rowling. I am not defending trans-exclusionary radical feminists, otherwise known as TERFs, nor am I defending intersectional radical feminists, otherwise known as ERFs, at least you'd think they should be. No kind of radical feminist is something I wish to defend in any context, nor indeed any kind of moderate feminist. You are all just deluded cunts who hate masculinity. I don't even take any enjoyment or any schadenfreude from the fights you have between each other, because it's men who suffer from your fights. Every time you swing a fist, it misses its mark and hits men square in the face. Some feminists hate the abstract identity of masculinity, and some feminists just hate the biological reality of men, i.e. dicks. You can all go fuck yourselves without the aid of a man or a dick. Good luck with that, by the way, anyway.
I mean, I sympathise with that, trying to see the other side, and the other side would be she's such an influential person, she's such an influential individual, that if she comes up with views, then the torrent, if you like, of abuse that can then be landed at the feet of those who are trans because of the views that she holds means that it makes it very difficult for them.
Pardon me, but she's a private individual. She can say what she likes. In the meantime, private companies and entire governments have to pander to the capricious desires of people who spontaneously denounce their biological sex, because otherwise it's institutional systemic bigotry. Let me know when I'm warm, James.
Well, it doesn't necessarily make it right, because I would stand up for her right to speak out. I wouldn't necessarily agree with her views on the matter of trans issues, because but then what do I know?
You know nothing except what you've been ordered to believe, and somehow you live with yourself. I am simultaneously envious and piteous.
But here, for example, in the papers today, and I think it is worth just picking it out, because it's one of those stories that, when one sees it, that we're talking about somebody whose life was pretty much cancelled because they were...
Cancel culture doesn't exist. Because I don't approve of the person whose life has been cancelled, but to go on.
They were born a man, and then they transitioned and became a woman, became a model, and as soon as they were found out, they were outed about it, and they've passed away, and yet it's still sort of, it's still a sort of major story that, if there is discrimination in this way, then it can have a terrible effect on somebody's life.
Female models are paid more than male models for the same work. So it's no wonder that a male model would pretend to be a female model, and it's no wonder that his employers would kick up something of a stink about having to pay him a female wage when they could have saved a pretty penny by paying him a male wage. Oh, wait! I get the distinct impression that the gender wage gap suddenly became a myth in the past 20 seconds. Well, how fucking queer!
For example, you have a look at the discrimination that does arrive at people. So this individual here, born as George Jameson.
Did you just dead name a dead trans woman? Tut, James, the police are on their way.
Transitioned and then became a model, and then when she was exposed as having been originally born as a man as opposed to the woman that she portrayed, then her life was kind of over and the discrimination started. And I guess
no, the discrimination started when he was born male. That's what happens when a man is born into a world of feminists. As I said, TERFs and intersectionalists may have heated arguments with each other on certain subjects, but they will put the differences aside and lock arms when it comes to telling cis men and boys that they are dangerous, oppressive predators just because they're male. Which might explain why he and so many others became so determined to unbecome male. And indeed why so many cis women would rather be men. When you present gender as a vector of inescapable oppression, people on both sides of that binary will become somewhat demoralised by their position in it. It hurts everyone who believes it and everyone in their vicinity. You didn't care about it then, and to this day you're still not even pretending to care. If you're going to virtue signal, then you should at least make an effort to try and sound like you might be sincere about anything.
Well, do you call him or her?
Do I call him or her? It was a rather silly question, wasn't it, James? Do I call a spade, or do I call a spade an ice cream sundae? I call it a spade! For the answer is right there in the question. I do get what you're asking me, but I'm going to take a moment to mock you for the inarticulate and incoherent babblings for which you somehow get paid.
You see, that's the problem, because they were born a man and then they became a woman, so they can never be her.
Why would you want to become a woman? It's because women are given special treatment, isn't it? Socially and legally. My rather wacky contention is if we didn't do that, if we didn't give women such a litany of special treatments under the law, and under everything under the law, and we didn't shame and demonise boys from an early age just for being male, maybe there wouldn't be quite so many men who are quite so determined to no longer be men. To me, that doesn't seem very natural. Anything that happens as a result of it is not exactly natural either.
So then there's the problem, isn't it?
Yes, there is the problem. Men do not hate women. Men do not oppress women. Men will tie themselves in impossible knots to try and prove how much they love women. We're all being lied to. And all you can argue about is what kinds of lies we should be telling. Have you considered not lying at all?
Well, it's not a question of not lying. It's a question of...
Yes, it is. Stop lying, you liar.
Not necessarily understanding that somebody can be born in somebody else's body.
See, that's not lying. That's lying as blatantly as you possibly can. Nobody is born in someone else's body, you psychotic fucking quack. Your body is the only body you will ever have or can ever have because you don't even have your body. You are your body. Don't tell people they're in the wrong body. It's like calling them a wrong skin. or a wrong brain, or a wrong person. And if that's not hate speech, I don't know what is. That is exactly how you instill in someone a deep-seated self-hatred that never goes away. You utterly bewildered, spiteful little shit. That is the problem. Your attitude and your beliefs are the problem. But you're in luck, because you can change those. You can change your attitude and your beliefs. You already have, haven't you? You changed them from common sense to utterly illogical and unscientific batshittery. And you can change them back. At least I hope you can.
Are you saying that a person should be discriminated against for the rest of their life because of the physicality of it?
No! That's precisely the opposite of what I'm saying. Don't tell people they were born in the wrong body. You cannot get more discriminatory than that, you absolute weapon.
No, you see, I'm afraid that's wrong.
I see. You're not used to being challenged, are you, James? Well, you are. Very.
Well, that's not necessarily... I mean, are you an expert in this?
You invited me onto your fucking show, James. If I'm not qualified to speak about this subject, then why in the purple flying arse did you ask me to come onto your show and speak about this subject? And I'm guessing, James, given that your idea of a reasoned rebuttal is, no, that's wrong, end of argument, I'm guessing you might not necessarily be an expert either. I mean, you're clearly an expert in the Sigma grind set. I have to respect the hustle. You just mumbled some sci-fi gobbledygook that would embarrass a Scientologist. Elaborate no further, but yeah, you have quite the balls there. Quite the brick wall of a gall to invite me to speak on your Poxy 2-bit propaganda show and then tell me I'm not fit to speak on your Poxy 2-bit propaganda show.
Yeah, well, you're telling me that you can't possibly, but you have no expertise to back it up, whereas doctors who are experts will say that people can be born. Do you...
Then bring on a fucking doctor, James. Go on, pick a doctor at random and listen to their expert opinion on whether or not a person can change their biological sex. And it should be random, James. And you need to let them speak. It's called double blind, and it's how we do science. Inviting a doctor from Pfizer to tell you how safe and effective Pfizer's products are isn't very scientific, do you get me? Sifting through every doctor you can find until you finally find one who tells you what you want to hear isn't very scientific. Bringing on a doctor who was paid to tell people what you want them to think is not science. It's just propaganda. And no, repeating the lie over and over does not make it become the truth, Mr. Goebbels. It just makes it a lie that everyone believes. No amount of sophistry will ever change the fact that 2 + 2 = 4.
No, you see, I'm afraid that's wrong.
That was the only clip I needed. The rest of this is just filler.
Can you, okay, let's just establish how that. Can you be born? Can you be born gay?
I don't know. How are we supposed to test it? How does one measure the gayness of a baby? Like, as soon as it pops out, we approach it with a clipboard and a pen, going, "Are you a bubba boy? Are you a bull dyke? Blink twice for I like furry porn." Lolly, perhaps. I guess that would make a twisted sort of sense, except no! Is there an experiment we can do? Do we dangle 2 sets of genitals in front of the face of a newborn baby and measure the stiffness of their erectile tissue? I do not answer that question. I already regret asking it.
You can choose to be gay.
You can certainly be coerced into it.
Right.
Indeed. Oh, with enough brainwashing, you can make any choice and then be convinced that you had no choice after all. Personally, I think it's wrong to coerce gay people into not being gay, and it's wrong to coerce not gay people into being gay. But let's not act like these things don't happen.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, and so you don't think that you could be born female, but in fact, in terms of how you operate, you are a man?
Another very sloppily phrased question. It depends what you mean by in terms of how you operate. You can be born female, but yet still go on to act with reason and accountability, and with a solid acknowledgement of your agency and responsibility. But something tells me you don't see such things as principally masculine. I get the feeling I could outline any morally positive trait, and you would disagree that there's anything masculine about it. So, let's see if we can go with a morally neutral biological operation. If you are born female, you cannot produce sperm. And no, that does not mean anyone who can't produce sperm is therefore not male. It means anyone who is not male cannot produce sperm. So don't try and twist it into its ass backwardness like I suspect you were thinking of doing just now. People who are not male cannot produce sperm. By definition, James, by the basic biological definition that we all learned about in middle school and cannot possibly argue against in our right mind.
But isn't that because you are certain on who you are, in the sense that I'm pretty certain on who I am, and therefore we can come at this subject with the knowledge and the experience that we have?
You are now disqualifying my statements based on my experience, having previously disqualified my statements based on my lack of experience. This is not a conversation, James. It's a fucking rain dance. It's a superstitious ritual where you contort yourself into whatever shape lets you leave reality and re-emerge in a fantasy land where things are what you say they are because you say they are. And they are also the opposite of what you just said they are because you changed your mind again.
But you can never be in the body, in the mind, in the brain of somebody else. And in fact, by saying the things that you're saying is pretty hateful, pretty disturbing.
Do you see what I fucking mean? You just said people can be born in someone else's body, and now you're saying you can never be in the body of someone else. Yes, James, it is very much hateful and disturbing to tell people that they're in the wrong body, and you said it! And rather than admit just how wrong you are, you're now trying to project your utter wrongness onto the person who corrected you. As though this conversation isn't being recorded. And you are provably wrong and a liar. You are sick, James. You are completely and perhaps irreversibly brainwashed. Never mind you're not an expert, you are a lunatic. Your level of education is less than zero, because lies and sophistry are all you know. All you can do is push us backwards. You're not even an expert in sophistry. You are appallingly bad at it. And yet you have a job where you get paid to talk and listen to people. And you only get away with it because the horse shit narrative you're peddling is a horse shit narrative that is very popular with other lunatics in positions of power who have less than zero business being there.
I don't know. I'm not an expert in this.
And that's okay. I'm not an expert either, and that's not okay. You are a bubble of liquid shit in a peat bog of infinite lies. Excuse yourself. You are not safe to be around.
Well, it's not a question of safe. It's just that it's cake and eat it, isn't it?
Unfucking believable.
But people tell me who have gone through transitioning, it's probably the most difficult thing to face, to confront, to deal with.
Difficult things are not necessarily based on truth, James. using the moon as a dildo is extremely difficult, but that doesn't mean it's something that needs to be done. Lies can also be difficult to tell. I realise you find it trivially easy to lie, and you find it impossible to tell the truth, but that, to reiterate, it's because you're a fucking liar!
Because of the views of people like you, it means that they are facing discrimination at every turn, and you're making their lives worse.
No, you see, I'm afraid that's just wrong.
Right. I mean, isn't it better that we try and train all people to be a little bit more respectful to each other?
Then don't call people wrong bodies! James, it's not exactly respectful!
Right. Okay. I am slightly staggered by your views on the basis that...
On the basis that they are your views and you've projected them onto me.
Maybe it was right that if you take those views, maybe you should be cancelled.
You think people should be cancelled?
Yes.
You definitely think people should be cancelled?
I don't think they should be. I don't think people should be cancelled, and I would like people to have different views. But it's just I find it staggering that you would want to have this kind of discrimination perpetrated against people who are born different from you.
James, I can't be fucking bothered anymore. You suck. Your insane cult of alien body snatchers sucks. The web of lies you keep stringing together in order to believe it sucks. And you should be laughed out of any position of trust for the rest of your life. But no, I don't believe you should be laughed out of any position of trust for the rest of your life. Do you see how much it sucks when someone else is doing it?
So is it okay if men said that they wanted women out of their spaces? Is that all right?
Yes. Fucking Chad, yes, all the way. If you understood that in the first place, we wouldn't be where we are now.
Might be.
You got me there.
Okay, and what about other places?
Indeed, there are many other places. We wouldn't be right now if we respected men and their freedoms. We wouldn't be irrationally doing away with everyone's basic freedoms for the hysterical sake of protection that doesn't even protect us. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't know.
Right, well, ask your boss. Read the brief. Find out what blatant nonsense you're supposed to believe this week and get back to me.
But if there are only females, if somebody is or has transitioned, then they are a female.
No, do you see? I'm afraid that's just wrong. Ah, the art of conversation.
Right. Okay, well then let's leave the old language.
Yeah, out with the old speak, in with the... never mind, eh?
I'm astounded.
No, you're a twat. I can't think of an outro. Don't like or subscribe.